weird question, but what is it?
Wednesday.
Why Wednesday?
Because it's the only day I can guarantee what I'm doing. I'll give you an example. So I know I'm up in the morning. I know I get to hang out with a silver screen, so the seniors are great. I know there's a very good chance I can finish early, because Wednesdays seem to be that kind of thing. And then I've always got the evenings free. So it's my favourite day of the week, because I know what I'm actually doing.
What do you get up to on Wednesdays? Like, do you game or?
Wank. No. So, my name's James, and I'm a big beardy fellow who works at the Odeon Cinema in Worcester. I love films. I'm passionate about movies, primarily horror, sci-fi, anything with giant monsters, and I love my job. I love my job so much, in fact, that I've kind of allowed progression to pass me, and I've stayed there for 12 years, just, you know, doing my thing. I love my job. I love talking to guests. I love talking about films, talking to people on the same wavelength, because quite often you get people who are into films like you know, coming into the cinema. I suffer from severe depression and anxiety at times, and I guess I've become so comfortable with the place. It's almost like my safe space, and I feel more comfortable there than anywhere else. Like, I can't see myself anywhere else. And so I guess in a way, like, it's this mental condition has kind of stunted my progression monetarily, but I'm still here. I'm still doing what I love, you know. Amusingly, I told them what the price was, and then immediately after I said the price, she asked me what the price was. I'm not, you know, trying to progress. I'm not trying to be a millionaire. I'm not trying to, you know, do everything. I just like what I do. You know, I've always tried my hardest. Even since day one, I've always had the same level of passion and excess, to a degree, you could say. I feel like if I didn't do my best every day, I'd be letting everyone down. It's like I'm always trying to prove something. I have made mistakes in the past, and people tend to look at you like, you know, they don't judge you by how great you are in all the years around that. They judge you by like the 1 or 2 times you've been silly. I never really hung out with people when I was younger. Like, when I was a kid, my mum, she suffered from severe OCD, and if I'm honest, like, I thought growing up that was the norm, that, you know, you did something slightly naughty and your mum would just kick the crap out of you, you know, and stamp on your ankles and things. I just thought that was just normal. And it wasn't. So my mum, her mum's name was Sylvia, and she was part Italian. She grew up during the 50s, the 60s, that sort of thing. She was, you know, for want of a better word, I think she was a bit of a party girl, I think, at some point. And later on, when she had children, I think that she had an issue with the fact that we stopped her from doing some of that. And the cause of my birth, so to speak, was a little odd, because as I understand it, so I'm not sure of all the particulars. So my sister had a little boyfriend when she was in school. And her boyfriend had a 15-year-old brother, and he just so happened to have a full beard and basically was very furry and basically looked like a bit like Bob Ross with glasses. And my mum, who was, I want to say, in her late 30s at the time, like I was told 38, but I could be wrong, basically seduced him, and I was the product of that mistake. They lasted 2 years. My dad was extremely violent towards my mum and very controlling. He apparently would hide a knife under a bed, under the pillow, and like use that as like a threat to my sister and to my mum. So they didn't last very long. And growing up, because I didn't know this about my father. I was like, oh, my dad's really cool when he was around, when he appeared. And I'd remember him being in the doorway to the kitchen, always being like, you know, can I hang out? You know, and my mum being just so abusive towards him, throwing stuff at him, because I didn't know. I didn't know what he was really like until I was much older. My mum would be like, you're nothing like your sister. She was always good as gold. And I'm thinking, you used to beat her up because apparently I was good as gold. But no, she'd be like trying to draw her eyebrows on because she had no eyebrows. She plucked them in the 60s or something. And she'd be drawing them on for like 2 hours. And she had to be in the dining room with a mirror on a fridge where the best light was. And she'd be there for 2 hours. I would be in a different room. I'd be somewhere else entirely. But I'd be all over me. Oh, you're all over me. You're annoying me. And she'd run up and smack me, and I'd be like, I'm just watching TV, you know. And that was kind of how it was with her. I got to 17, and my mum had moved to Worcester finally. Now, I ended up staying in Malvern because, if I'm honest, I wanted to stay at that school. Now, everyone at my high school bullied me, pretty much. I was a very good target for everyone because I didn't fight back. I didn't do anything back. And I think I actually stayed and didn't try and move to a different school because of a girl, which was really stupid of me. Because I didn't even know what love was. I didn't even know what relationships really were. I just stayed because, you know, I was mildly infatuated with someone. I ended up going to sixth form because of, I thought, well, that girl's staying on, I want to stay on. That's a reality, if I'm honest. I don't really admit that much. Eventually, this was Christmas 2000, so 18 years back, and I finally, you know, said to my mum, okay, can I just come live with you, because they've got a room for me anyway, and I'll just get the bus to school, you know, back to Malvern. And she finally agreed. The first night was a weird night because she woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning saying she could smell me. That was lovely. So, and basically, you know, I would go to Malvern to hang out with my friends, and after school I would stay in Malvern for a bit with one of my friends in particular, a guy called Chris. And one day, and this was within this month, so we're talking January, one day I just had this weird feeling I needed to go back home. Now, my mum had been complaining about a headache, or what have you, for like a few days, and I went home early this time, and when I got back home, she was in a leather jacket and she was waiting, and I'm like, you know, like, what's the matter? And she, oh, I'm going to the hospital. I was like, okay, how come? I'm gonna die. I'm like, no, you're not. You know, this is literally, you've been saying this my whole life, you know. And she was saying that she had a headache and that she'd already had a CAT scan, which seemed quite serious. And then she gave me this great big hug. And she was saying, I'm going to the hospital now. I just want to wait to see you before I go, because I'm not coming back. And I'd heard this all before. And I remember my last words were, don't talk wet, mum. And then she screamed in my ear and pulled me in as hard as she could possibly do. And she screamed, quick, Jeff, get an ambulance, which was my stepdad. And then she went dead weight in my arms, and we both fell over and headbutted each other. And she started snoring, which was weird. And we fell into a chair. And I'm like, Jeff, you know, like, get here. He ran in, and he's immediately on the phone, and he just screamed, she's not breathing. I'm like, she's snoring. And, you know, he panicked. He went, you know, he shrieked, kind of thing, as he wont to do. And I got on the phone on my Nokia brick, got an ambulance, you know, on the way, was talking to them and telling him to, like, make sure her tongue was out the way of her, you know, her airway. And I ran outside to get the ambulance, and they got her. They took her, and they wanted to, you know, check what was actually the matter, and turns out that she had a bleed on the brain, and she was, for all intents and purposes, brain dead. And I remember my family, you know, being given that decision, you know, like, she's probably not going to be the same person. She's not going to be able to live, essentially. Like, the only thing keeping her alive is the machines. And like people in my family, they just couldn't come up with that decision. My sister didn't know what to do, and I remember just saying, if there was any semblance of her personality inside, and we left her in a vegetative state, she'd fucking hunt us down. She would, like, spiritually, she would hate us. And I said, we should turn it off. And they did. So she died. I couldn't be there to see her die. I mean, you know, I just couldn't do that. So while my mum was dying, I was eating a microwavable kebab at my auntie's house. I lived with her for a month, right? That 1 month, right, was the best month I'd ever had with my mum. She wasn't violent. She was actually happy. She was, she lived in Worcester now. She had a big house because of my, you know, stepdad. She had everything she wanted. But I had to be strong, you know, like no one else was being strong. I had to be strong. I read a poem out at the podium during the very Catholic funeral. I was a pallbearer. I even laughed, like, awkwardly, because that's my way of dealing with things, just to laugh and make jokes, because, you know, that's just who I am. It's how I cope. I can't be an unhappy person. I have to be a bright, shining light, so to speak, for everyone, because that's just my job. I was on my own then. I was in this house on my own because within a few weeks my stepdad was in another relationship. He started being abusive towards me because I guess he wanted to just get rid of me because I was a dead weight in his life now. So he would beat me and abuse me, and I ran away from home. And I was homeless for a few months, and I didn't know what the hell to do with myself. You know, I wasn't supposed to be in this situation. Eventually, and I did this while joining college course. You know, like I had a year out during which 9/11 happened, and I watched all that live. And then I joined a college course in performing arts, mainly because my mate was doing performing arts. My best friend was doing performing arts.
Do you think you needed to experience tragedy in your life in order to open up a level of humour to yourself?
I was always funny looking. You know, I kind of had an ego. I like to perform. I like to be the centre of attention, and quite often a way of getting attention, any attention, was through shock. So I've always thought you know, I've always wanted to be the centre of attention, and humour, self-deprecating humour, has always been a good way of getting that, or just shocking people. But when it came to the tragic side of things, for the longest time, whether it was true or not, laughing or making people laugh was a way of showing people, on the outside at least, that I was okay, even if I wasn't, so they wouldn't have to worry about me, or that I could prove that I was stronger than I am somehow.
The way you just explained it suggests that it's more for them, but at the same time you're doing it to, like, kind of trick yourself into thinking you're also okay.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
I would say that's a fair assessment. I mean, some of it I don't entirely understand myself, but like, the way things are now for me as a person, I don't mind being, we're in a progressive society now, and I mean, back when I was younger, you couldn't, as a young male, you couldn't show signs of weakness, you couldn't cry, you had to be a man. Everyone has so many aspects of themselves, so there's the person that I feel like I am inside, there's the person I project to other people, there's the person that other people see of me, and each and every person I meet has their own version of me, and I try to, in a way, control how people view me. So I want to be seen as somebody who's fun, who's strong, who is there for people and caring.
Yeah, that's heavy, man.
So, yeah, I am.
No,
I'm a heavy person, both physically and figuratively. You know.